Maloney, and it has just been cleaned up, so you will be able to read it. That's my mother's people's. And immediately behind that, a grey limestone one, the same colour as ours, but a square shape, and there are usually plenty of flowers on it, is, I don't know what the first name in the Kenneally one, and I don't think it's Alex, even though Alex is Kenneally, I'm getting some kind of dyslexia or something. But, and there are loads of names on it. And in fact, I think there are even so many on it that they actually had to put another little piece and put it on the grave because there wasn't room to fit all the names.
All the different names.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, now, I don't know, because I was looking at another grave yesterday, and if you were to go on the number of people whose names are on the grave, that side, and that side, there are 11 buried in the grave, which seems an almighty lot. But I mean, I know it's not the most salubrious of things to be talking about. My father was buried in a brand new grave, you see, and he's dead since 1974. He died from cancer. He was 61. But anyway, about, I suppose maybe 7 or 8 years ago anyway, the grave fell in, you see. So what that meant was that the coffin had collapsed at that stage. But I mean, the man was dead well over 20. I mean, he's 34 years dead now. He was dead well over 20 years. And I know it has nothing to do with it, but it's kind of related. The night that my father died, one of the priests was in here, and 2 of our next door neighbours, and the undertaker, and it came around to, you know, what kind of a coffin was he going to be buried in. And anyway, Mrs. Brown, the lady across the way, her husband had only died about 5 years before. Now they were immensely well off, so I mean, we mightn't be talking about the same price of a coffin as they would be prepared to pay. But anyway, her husband was buried in an oak coffin, you see. An oak, by the standards here at the time, would have been the top of the range one. So anyway, and what would an oak coffin be? It would be 90. Now, and remember, you see, my father died over here in our local hospital. So the price that was being quoted for the coffin included everything, because the hearse was only going to come from there up to the church and then go another mile up and back, you know, so at 90. I remember Mrs. Brown saying, God, you know, they've gone up a bit. On Jack died, they were only 75, but I mean, this was the woman that had the money, but I mean, my mother might have been prepared to lash her up, but she wasn't anyway. Then the next one down was an alum one, and that was 75, and 60 was a deal. And I suppose, as she said, I couldn't very well give to say to him that I buried him the cheapest one, you know. So, no, even though she was bereaved, she hadn't lost her senses. She asked Johnny Corbett, and what was your father buried in, you see? Oh, he was buried in an alum coffin. Oh, well, it was good enough for the undertaker, she said. It was good enough for Donald, so my father was buried in an alum coffin, that's all I know. So it was the middle one. No, I mean, what that has to do with Kenneally's, but no, it's to do with the graveyard.
And you were saying those were 60...
punts in those days, which would be more than euros, because I don't know. I suppose what would you say? 90 now would be about the equivalent of, I suppose, maybe 120 euros.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's not. That there's no resemblance to what you pay for a coffin now or anything like that.
Yeah.
But sorry, getting back to the Kenneallys now. What else can I think? But I mean, you should have no shortage of relations around, because, as I say, Patrick has 4 sons at least. I can't say that I've ever met a daughter of his, and I could have been introduced to what I might have thought was a daughter-in-law. It might have been a daughter, but any time I've ever seen him at anything, it is usually 4 lads anyway that I know.
Was Patrick a twin?
He could have been. That I wouldn't know. And he might have been, was he a twin of one of the girls, or was it another brother?
I've got a photo of this.
No.
Do you know if any of the Kenneallys served in the Irish military?
Or anyone else?
Irish military?
No, I
Michael
couldn't.
Kenneally did. The Alexander that
I couldn't talk. I
from
couldn't
the
say.
1880s had.
Yeah.
When he
I
left,
couldn't answer that.
Yeah, he died in.
But it would
land
make
is-
sense in the sense that, you know, first of all, they would have a kind of a trade going into the military, which most people in those days wouldn't have had. You know, if their father was a blacksmith, but even if they weren't trained as a blacksmith, they'd have better knowledge of it than I would have or anything like that. And I know one of Patrick's sons went out with this engineering company out to Russia and lots of other places, you know. But I know Patrick has a good few. He has some children living in Cork. No, sorry, Willie had some children living in Cork. Willie had some children, has a few sons living in Clonmel. Only because...
Who was
The son or
Patrick's
the
father?
grandson, the grandson.
Who was Patrick's father?
Now that, you see, I don't ever remember Alex or Patrick's father. My mother would know who that was. But
His
it
mother
could
would
be a
be
guess.
there.
It could be a
His
guess.
mother is the
I'm not
answer.
saying that the father, that Alex's father was Alex. But Alex does feature in every generation of it, as far as I know. Because remember, I told you about the other Kenneallys that were over the bridge. They had a son who was in my class, and his name was Alec. And that's what made me ask my mother one time, was he
And they
anything to the other
resemble,
Alec
yeah.
Kenneally? And that boy's father was Patrick. There was he had a brother, Alec. The Alec in my class now had a brother, Leo. Now I think that came from the mother side of it. But anyway, no. So listen, I suppose the first thing you want to do is go up to this graveyard and see.
Yeah, we'll take a look.
We'll have a
So
take a
as I
ride
say,
up.
if I had a bit more time,
Don't
No,
anyway,
it's
go
fine.
up to the first crossroads.
Thank you very much.
You're
for your
welcome.
courtesy.
You're welcome. I'm glad that I was able to.
Johnny, thank you so much.
Give Patrick my regards and his wife. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but I heard somewhere on the grapevine that his wife isn't that well, but I'm not 100. I mean, it might be just something part of the aging process, I don't know. Anytime I was down there, she seemed quite well to me anyway, you know. Anyway, okay, you're more than welcome.
Thank
Now,
you so
also,
much.
what I was going to say to you is, if you... because of your grandparents or great-grandparents being blacksmiths, before the church was liturgically changed, you know, with the altar facing the people, the altar rails that were above were done in marble, but the gates, the two side gates and the altar, the gates in the main sanctuary, were made by Alex's grandfather. And we had a parish priest here who, when it was all reorganised, and he didn't want the job of reorganising it, the man wanted left the way the architect designed it, but anyway there was pressure put on him, and begrudgingly he agreed to have the job done. Now it was very tastefully done, but the gates went, you see, and Alec looked for them back, you see, which was a fair enough thing, but anyway, yeah, there was nothing coming straight back. You had to buy him back, because the priest's attitude was, I'm sure your grandfather was paid for this. So anyway,
Wow.
and
Absolutely
I don't
amazing.
know, we're told he did, but anyway, is that your book?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, don't go away without it.
Thank you.
Yeah, but the
knowledge
other...
is invaluable.
Oh, I don't know. Well, my mother maintains I make up a lot of it, but then I say, well, I'm only getting it from her, so that ends that argument.
Thank you very much.
But
Take care.
what you should do while you're here is, leaving aside your relatives, you know where I told you the place was, continue up there and go up the mountain, and you have a hairpin bend on the and you can see 5 counties from there. It's really well seen.
What are those?
Those mountains, they're Knockmeal down mountains, and the ones at this side are Galties, and the Galtymore is the 3rd highest mountain in Ireland. The 2 other ones ahead of it would be down in Kerry near Killarney, and Knockmeal down is that one. And that is 2 translations. Canuck is the Irish for mountain or a hill. Moyle is bare and down is brown, so they translate as the bare brown hill. Also, my mother's family's surname was Maloney, and the Irish for Maloney is Moyle Downig. They are also referred to as the hills of the Maloney's, and apparently when Cromwell came to Ireland and threw everyone out of any worthwhile land and gave them the choice of either going to hell or to Connaught, Maloney's went to neither. They took off in boats down the Shannon and came in below at Dungarvan and aimed for the nearest mountains, which were these ones. So that's
Could you point out the Pound Lane?
Oh yeah, sure, I can show you that. There's no problem. Now, Casper.
Put this in the
Oh,
for me.
all right, thank you very much. I'll be with you in a minute now, Casper. No, it's just down here.
Is the church that you mentioned?
That's that one,
right
yeah.
around the corner?
Yeah, and I mean if it was in
No, the graveyard.
oh, the graveyard
down
is straight
right,
ahead.
But the church
one is here.
right here.
Yeah, but 1880, I think he said that the grand. Was it 1880? He said that. 1882. Yeah. Well, he would have been baptized in that church because that church is only there since 1864.
Yeah.
There was another one before that on that site, but
Oh, yeah, I saw that church, 18.
no, down there.
Yeah.
No, that's the Church of Ireland. That's the Protestant church.
Oh.
And that was given as a present to us in 1976.
Where's that John?
I don't know. Right there.
Making friends.